Hi, I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning. This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of All About You, and this program is broadcast every single week at AccessTV.org studios in downtown Hartford. This show is designed to give the guests a chance to give their life story. This morning, I have a prominent attorney in Connecticut that's going to give his life story and pretty much talk about what he's doing currently. This morning, my guest is attorney Jeffrey Dressler. Good morning, attorney Dressler.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, it's good to have you here. Could you kind of let people know where you were born and raised?
North End of Hartford.
Okay.
Springboard to success.
Mm-hmm.
A great place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Where I lived on the east side on Harper Street.
Okay.
Off of Loeb Lane, went to school on Westland Street, Brackett, which was Brackett Park, and I think they knocked that down.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to the west side. See, if you didn't have much money, lived on the east side.
Okay.
And professional lived on the west side, the Blue Hills Avenue side. We moved when that side moved on. We moved over to Garfield Street.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to Jones, which was on the corner of Woodland and Albany Avenue. They knocked that down, built a artist collective.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I grew up. North End of Hartford was a great place to live. Played Little League in Westbrook Village.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch Sandy Cloud play ball.
Okay.
So some of the people who grew up were my idols when I was a kid. It's interesting to see who they became, the leaders in our community.
Now, you said it was a great place to live. I mean, and you had a lot of things to do. You was able to see a lot of different things. I mean, was the city really jumping back then?
From Harper Street, when I was in kindergarten, I'd walk down Westland Street, down to Acton and Clark Street by myself.
Okay.
We'd play in Keeney Park. The door would open up. Bang, we'd go out. I always grew up on these little dead-end streets with a zillion kids. And we'd go to Keeney Park for the whole day. You know, go to the Pound House, go to the playground. Never had to worry about anything. That's what we're going to bring Hartford back to.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully we can give this city what it really needs to get back to where
we're all working
it
on
needs to
it.
be. Working on that. What did you do growing up? You know, besides playing sports and things like that, did you have?
I love to work.
Since
I was 5 years old, I worked. I helped my brother on his paper route. I'd collect bottles. I'd do errands for neighbors. I shoveled snow. Had paper routes, and then from the time I was 16 on, I was going on the weekends and all vacations. I worked as a bus boy and then waiter. I had resorts in Connecticut and then in New York. So I was always had my eye on the horizon. But I love to work, and that's what I do now. I'm now working while I sleep.
Right. Well, back then, was it very easy to find jobs? I mean, you didn't have no real problem looking for work or finding work.
It depends on the individual. I know in college, one summer, there was nothing, there's no jobs. So I created one. I handed out pamphlets. I went out to the burbs, and I sealed driveways. So I had a van that I painted with a paintbrush myself, and I'd go out and seal driveways. So, you know, people can be industrious. They can be creative.
Okay. Now, as far as your educational attainment, you know, what type of interest did you have going through high school? What did you want to become?
You know, since I was little, my mother told me I was going to be a lawyer.
Okay.
My parents told me I was going to be a lawyer. And that's what I tell parents now. If you tell your kids often enough, they'll believe it. So I always believed I was going to be a lawyer. How I'd get there, I was going to live life and try to have as much fun as possible. Okay. So I graduated UConn, and I had saved money. I had a chopper. I had a fast car.
Right.
A couple of girlfriends.
Okay.
Had to leave the girlfriends. Sold everything I had, and I wanted to learn Spanish.
Right.
Because when I was going to UConn, I was playing baseball. I played a lot of baseball. So I played on some Puerto Rican leagues, and because I thought little Boricuas, Puerto Ricans can play good ball.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the community, and I wanted to learn Spanish. I didn't learn Spanish when I was working in the resorts in New York. I lived with Colombians, and again, I wanted to learn Spanish. So I sold everything I had. I stuck myself in the mountains of Spain to learn Spanish, which I did. So I left the country for 1 year. It turned into 7.
Okay.
All right, because I lived in Spain for a few years. Met my wife on an island in the Mediterranean. One summer we hitched from Scandinavia down to Africa, and during my time there, I tried to see as much as I can. From there, I moved to Puerto Rico, where I studied law in Spanish. So for me, that was the hook. I had a ball.
So you're kind of used to the Latin culture, the food, the language. I mean, you feel real comfortable around Spanish people?
I do. I'm a blessed man. I've lived in the North End.
Okay.
I grew up with my brothers, and so I'm what you call a Hebrew or Hebraican.
All right.
I lived 7 years in Latin countries. My family's eclectic. My wife is Scandinavian. My kids, we adopted 2 children from Medellin, Colombia.
Okay.
And my son now, after living a year in Medellin, is now in Puerto Rico. So, and hopefully will be entering law school.
Okay.
They may be up here practicing law with us.
Now, when you became a lawyer, what was that like when you officially became attorney Jeffrey Dressler?
When I was down in Puerto Rico, I clerked in the federal prosecutor's office, and I volunteered in legal services for the migrants. So when I came up here, it was a continuum. And I did a lot of criminal defense. And I had a couple of cases that I am now writing a book about that affected me. As an attorney, you represent the individual against the system. And we have a lot of innocent people that are in jail.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I believe that you've had a lot of innocent people that have been executed.
Okay.
I oppose the death penalty for that reason, because you can't take it back. But I did a very good job for a few clients, and they went out and committed the same crimes. And in a manner that it affected me, because it was people that I had known, or it affected people that were close to me. So I left the criminal practice, and I dedicated my practice to civil law, personal injury, malpractice.
Okay.
So
now that's the type of job that you do now as a civil attorney.
I do.
Do you see anything about that job that you don't like, or is everything pretty much normal that you can
I'm
deal
a
with?
blessed man.
Okay.
I love what I do.
All right.
And I do what I love. And I have the good fortune to be licensed in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So I go down to Puerto Rico a few times a year. I take seminars down there, and I have affiliate offices down there. I have some really sharpshooters down there, because we represent accident victims and medical malpractice cases. And we have people for the local courts, and I have a great team in the federal court for diversity. There's bigger cases.
So the type of job you have, it allows you to be able to travel throughout the world if you are able to go down to Puerto Rico.
Well, in my firm now, we have about 40 people in the firm.
Okay.
So we have people tending the store here. We have 8 litigation lawyers here, and so if I have to go down to Puerto Rico, it's on a case. I may have to go down there to interview a client for medical malpractice. You need the diversity jurisdiction.
Right.
So what we'll do, if you have someone and it's a really big case, we move them off the island. Now they're not a resident of Puerto Rico, because you need a couple of requisites. One, you can't be a resident of Puerto Rico, so now they come up here. They're not a resident, and the case has to be worth more than $75,000, which it usually is.
And I know you like Puerto Rico because you say you've been there before and you just love the Latin.
I love Puerto Rico,
society,
Colombia, Mexico. Puerto Rico obviously has a special place in my heart, because I live down there. I study law down there, and I work with the Latino community here and the Puerto Rican community here, as I do with the black community.
Okay. Now, you still live in the capital city of Hartford?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
Now I don't. I lived 40 years in Hartford.
Oh, okay.
And what happened is I had one of my kids had needed special needs for education, and at that time Hartford could not accommodate. They didn't have the good. They didn't have the magnet schools, et cetera. So I had to look for a school system that could accommodate my kids. My wife found a house that I did not step into for a year, because Hartford was my signature.
Okay.
This is me, and it still is. Where am I from? This is where I work. This is where I dedicate my life. I'm in the schools. We're building our second gym. I'm funding the a second boxing gym. You have the Juan Center, Bright Futures Now, and Johnny Callis is opening a new gym right off of Pope Park on Pope Park Highway. So there's more boxing gyms opening in Hartford.
Well, maybe that's a good example that many times people hear that if you don't live in a particular area, you're really not committed or you're not involved. But you've kind of proven that even though you don't live in the city, you can still be heavily involved in what's going on.
My heart is here. It's where your heart is.
Okay.
All right. So this is where I am most of the time. I go home. I like the quiet where I do live. I've got a dog. I go into the park. I work out, and I like the quiet. But I'm in Hartford most of the time.
You love the capital city.
This is my place.
Okay.
I am from Hartford.
Right.
All right. This is where I'm from. This is where I dedicate my life, whether it be in the sports, in the boxing gyms, whether it be in mega education, in the schools, or in my law practice.
What kind of has kept you, so many successful people, when they kind of get to a certain level financially, they just don't want to live where they're really from? What has kind of kept you, still having your heart in the capital city?
This is where I grew up.
Okay.
This is what I am. This is what I am, and this is my heart. This attracts me. That attracts me. I'm part of this. This is where I love to be when I go into the schools. And when I see where I'm needed, all right. What I try to teach kids is that if you live life with purpose, you live life.
Right.
So that's what we try to do: is live life with purpose. Kids may ask, "Gee," they're impressed with cars and whatnot. And I don't judge success in what I have. I judge success in what I do.
What you do, right?
And you have a lot of wealthy, impoverished people.
Oh, okay.
Right, and so we have to judge people on what they do and what purpose they have. And sometimes I like being with the kids because you can't fool kids or dogs. They know,
right,
and they can feel sincerity or someone who's disingenuous, who's not sincere.
You kind of remind me a little bit in some degree of Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes, grew up in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Bring him on.
Boxer. Okay, bring him on. And, most boxers like his, at his level, they would eventually go to Las Vegas, California, or, some other place, Arizona. But he always felt that his heart, was in Easton, Pennsylvania, and that, he feels special, that people can look up to him and say, he came from this same particular area, and he was able to become the boxing heavyweight champion of the world. And I know you like boxing. You are involved in boxing. And I just think for what you have been able to explain that, this is your hometown and that your heart is still here, is kind of just something that I think people should know about, the reasons, why that you still feel committed.
Jonathan, we have unbelievable talent in Hartford.
Okay.
Unbelievable. It's the... how can we develop that talent? What opportunities can we provide for that? Because not all kids have the same opportunities.
Right.
All right. And it's our job to make sure when I go into a school and I talk to the parents with the children, I'll take out a pen and I said, well, listen, I need an operation. I'll give it to an 8-year-old. So you want to operate? And they'll smile.
Right.
I said, well, we have to see this child as a surgeon. And we have to make sure that this child, graduates from Wish or Milner or Clark School and then goes to high school and then college and then medical school, then practice on some other people. Now you can come try, operate. But we have to look at all of our children as the individuals that will be building our schools, that will be taking care of us as doctors, that will be the lawyers, that will be taking on running the institutions. And I would, I'm an advocate of education, obviously. If you gave me the government, I would take money from, let the Army have bake sales to buy battleships and invest it in schools. If we invested the money in our schools that we invested in war, we wouldn't be competing with the world, we'd be leading it. And if we invested in education, we'd have a different life. I walk my dog with a scientist, and they're telling me they're working already in the fourth dimension, which is time. to fast forward. And if we had not been spending all the money, all mankind, on war, we'd be a couple centuries ahead. And as far as technology, as far as curing illnesses, as far as living together in harmony. And we're not doing that. So we have to do that through education.
And I think a lot of people always put the emphasis on sports or entertainment as the only way to really reach your full potential or get to the next level. But you see education as another way to get to that next level.
I try not to step on anybody's dreams.
Right.
You may go into junior, middle school, and you ask kids what they want to do. Depending on the school, you have some kids. They pick some pretty lofty goals. Then you have the kids that want to be and want to play in the NFL,
Right.
NBA, which is good.
Right. Okay.
But I always allude to a friend, Skeeter McClure. He was the 1960 gold medalist in the middleweight division. He was the team captain in which Muhammad Ali fought.
Okay.
Then Coach Cassius Clay. He's the only gold medalist ever to earn his PhD. We crunched the numbers. I tried to tell the kids, how many NFL players you have from Connecticut? How many residents you have here?
Right.
Out of 3 million, maybe you have 10.
Okay.
All right, so you have 10 chances out of 3 million. I said, how many doctors and lawyers do you have? Thousands.
Thousands.
Your chances are better becoming a doctor or lawyer. So I'll tell you what, hold on to that dream of being an NFL quarterback. But I'll tell you what, go to law school too. So then when you retire, you can be the sports agent for everybody. Now you get a piece of everybody's action.
Right.
I said, now that's where the money is.
Okay. We're up on our first break. Let's come back and get into your mega education, which I know you heavily are involved with, and we'll give people to find out a lot about that. This is Jonathan Small. I'm hosting All About You this morning with my guest, attorney Jeffrey Dressler, and we will be right back very shortly. Thank you. This is Jonathan Small hosting All About You this morning with my guest, attorney Jeffrey Dressler, and we're going to continue back with our conversation. Attorney Dressler, you are heavily involved with this mega education. Could you kind of explain what this mega education is all about?
25 years ago, I owned a radio station, and what I did was I created a program that this station, I was going to merge with a radio chain, and they were in 26 cities. So I created something for 26 cities that I thought would be a program that could celebrate learning, that would make education fun. The radio network fell apart, and from financing, whatever, I trademarked the name Mega Education, and we started working with different schools. As a matter of fact, I had a school that called me, and they had a group of problem kids, bad behavior, bad grades, and no parent participation. And I funded a breakfast program that the students would make breakfast with the teachers. Well, they broke down the barriers, and they got to know one another, and the kids were not afraid. There was no distance. And they connected. At the end of the year, there was great behavior, and perfect behavior, great attendance, tremendous parent participation. So I packaged that up and took it to different sponsors, and what's not to like?
Right.
So that started it, and we started to create different programs. It morphed into a partnership with different school systems, where we now are the supporters of the academic bowls, the reading programs, the writing programs. And what we do is we celebrate learning. We make kids feel good about themselves. So now when we walk into an auditorium, the kids know that something good is going to happen.
Right.
Kids are going to be recognized. So we go in with the Student of the Month program with the gold medals, and who does not want to be recognized? So what we tried to do was create academics as a sport.
Okay.
All right, and have kids proud of being smart, because you have some kids in certain ages, they actually dumb down.
Right. That's true.
Right. Well, we want them to smarten up and feel good about it. So that's what we're doing, working with the school systems to make kids feel good about themselves and get them. We're working from zero, from birth, because there is a parenting technique to teach kids vocabulary. And you have a disparity between inner city kids and suburban kids. Suburban students enter kindergarten with a 30,000 word vocabulary, where inner city children many times enter with 5,000 word. So we work with the parents and how to dialogue with their kids, how to teach their children is very, very important. It doesn't work without the participation of the parents.
Okay.
The schools can do so much. My parents didn't graduate high school. I grew up in the North End. We lived in a 6-family, but I had family, and that's what it was. And my parents made sure that they put a lot of emphasis on education. My mom was a manicurist for 30 years and saved her tips to send me to school. So I'm appreciative for the air that I breathe. And when we go into these schools and recognize the kids, and we recognize it and reward effort. I mean, we award mentally challenged students because they're trying, and we have an inclusion, all right, to encourage camaraderie between all of the students.
Well, with this mega education, I mean, stereotype or not, you see a lot of kids with their pants half down. Sometimes I'm listening to kids that sound like they're sailors in the Navy with the, profanity and the vulgar. Is these the real challenges that you have to still deal with your mega education? Some real, difficult deficiencies that a lot of kids are just bringing a lot of baggage to the table?
Most of the kids, we can reach most of the kids. I really think we're born with a blueprint. You got different kind of kids. You got some kids that are just incorrigible. It's going to be very, very difficult to reach them. Most of the kids we can.
Okay.
And when I tell the kids is, don't ever think someone's smarter because they get better grades. Right? That's not how we judge intelligence. Everybody has genius. Einstein said, every child has genius. We just have to find out where that genius lies. And that's the way we go to school. I mean, we have weaknesses. Right. We have strengths.
Yeah.
We work on our strengths. We focus on our strengths. All right? We have to deal with the weaknesses. So we encourage children to know that they all have genius and they can all feel good about themselves and not to judge themselves because their grades may not be, someone may have better grades. That's not the way to judge success.
But this mega education, it's not something that's implemented in the curriculum of the Board of Education, though.
No, it's not an educational program.
Okay.
It's a scholastic incentive program that celebrates learning and makes education fun.
Okay.
So basically, the schools have the programs, and what we'll do is recognize the kids. And we have incentives, and the incentives include vacation stays at Cocoa Key Water Theme Park, movie tickets. We have event tickets. We expose the kids to the Bushnell. We have packages where I'll have a chauffeur-driven stretch limousine, pick up the family, take them out to dinner, and then to the Bushnell to expose them to the theater. what's not to like? This year, we're going to put a lot of emphasis on technology. We will be awarding computer tablets. About a year and a half ago, we went down to Puerto Rico and distributed 1,000 computer tablets all over the island. And we made a movie on it. And Stan McCauley accompanied us down there.
Yes.
And we did some good spots for Meg Education to show what we're doing down there. We have plans to be in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. This is going to be Meg Education without borders. Okay. Because kids like to be recognized. And if we can make them excited about learning, you know, curiosity will do the rest. If we can start them off, we can make kids curious, they're going to learn.
Right.
So this year, we're going to be distributing 250, maybe, it depends, we're going to buy some more. We just spent $20,000 in computer tablets, but we want to emphasize the STEM applications, or STREAM applications. STEM is science, technology, education, math. STREAM is science, technology, reading, engineering, art, and math. And parents can work with their children on these applications. So we're going to be working now in the high schools with math competitions. And not for the stellar students. We want to get kids in who have problems with math.
Yes.
And they'll work with their fellow students. And it's not about how well you're doing, it's about the effort. Because if we get them started, the curiosity and the pride will do the rest.
Well, would it be fair to say that in today's era, you have to have some type of form of a formal education, but you got to have some type of basic knowledge of what you have to learn and what you need to do? And is this something that you're kind of trying to change, something that's not been implemented for?
Jonathan, my parents lived in an era that if you didn't finish high school, you could walk into a factory. Okay. And factories were all over Hartford.
Right.
You know, I grew up 100 yards from a factory.
Okay.
The Swift factory on Loveline.
Loveline, okay.
Right. And you had typewriter factories, you had nail factories, you had factories all over the place. You can't do that now. Right. There are no factories.
Right.
You might have small manufacturing, but you need an education on how to work here. Now, that's an idea for the corporations and companies to work directly with the schools. Not all kids are designed to go to college. Right. And that's okay. You know, you can make $120,000 a year being a mechanic for heavy machinery. So if we went to a high school student and said, would you like to make $120,000 a year? Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, that's fine. That's good enough to support a family and live a good life. Live a good life, right? Yes. So if we have more of that, we can have specialized training. All right. Just think what we can do. We can revitalize the city. But we need that coordination. That's the leadership you need. You know politicians.
I know politicians.
You're going to have some on the program.
Yes.
Talk to them about that.
Okay.
All right? That's going to be a focus.
Well, I think this mega education, I mean, it sounds like it could be drawing national and international exposure, too, because you said you've been down to Puerto Rico. I don't know if I've ever seen you on CNN, but I know that... You have been on CNN?
Yeah, not yet.
Oh, not yet.
Not
okay.
yet, all right? If you ask me if I play piano, I'll tell you not yet.
Oh, okay.
All right. We are contacted from other states, and I thought about franchising it, and I always worry about someone misusing it. So you know what I want to do? I want to focus and make this successful here. But there has to be a coordination. I make education fun. I celebrate learning. But it's got to be a really good coordination with the parents. I have programs for parents to get them involved. And if you can get the parents involved, you're going to see a tremendous success rate for the children. So this is what we're doing now. We're working with the different school systems. And particularly, you know, we have the third grade promise. If children aren't reading by third grade, they're going to have a tough time. You have some states that build their prison populations based on fourth grade failure rates. Yes. That's scary. So we have to reach the children early. We have to put books in their hands. And now with all the technology, sometimes it's tough. You know, their attention span is such that it's bites.
But I think we have to find a way to capitalize on that, because a lot of these kids are so equipped to know how to function with technology, which, you know, your generation was not able to do because you didn't even have it at that particular time.
Correct.
Let's try to market that strength that they have with technology, are able to program things.
Technology is, I'm obligated to keep up with technology as an attorney. Our trials now are done with iPads.
Okay.
All right, so we have to be technologically state of the art, right up to date. But for the students, instead of Facebook and different apps and things like that, if we can utilize technology so they can carry, now you can learn anywhere. So that's one of our themes. Learning happens every day and everywhere. Right. You can learn everywhere. So with your technology, and there's Wi-Fi wherever you go, if you can work on these, have fun. You're gonna have fun. Yeah. All right, you got that. We try to make education fun.
Well, excuse me. It sounds like to me, really, with all of the information and even resources that we have, it really shouldn't be no child left behind. Now, I understand we got some social disparities where a lot of kids just don't have the financial means probably to go other places and, get into certain institutions. I know what you're doing is trying to offer a lot of kids who are disadvantaged those same type of exposures. But I think you're trying to model this as to show that we have a way that we can get kids excited about education and try to work on the process to get them to where they're looking to be. I mean, what they want to become.
First, I want to focus on education.
Okay.
I want the parents to focus on education. I want the government for funding to focus on education. We have money for so many things, but if you can go into schools and they have books and repositories, you go into schools and there may not be toilet paper.
Right.
All right? That's unconscionable. It's unconscionable. All of our schools should be functioning at the same level. Public schools at the same level as the magnet schools. Right? These are our children. What's more important to us than our children? And what's more important to our future? This is our future. This isn't rhetoric. Yeah. Right? And what do parents want? So we're working with the learning. We're working with scholarships, and we're trying to involve everyone to have fun.
Well, I understand. I don't know if you're going to feel comfortable. I'm just going to ask you this question. Recently in Ferguson, Missouri, this Michael Brown, who was killed by a police officer, he was unarmed from what the report had indicated. I'm just saying this as a way that in society, do we have the luxury of saying we can have a generation of people who are really not needed? You mentioned about monitoring kids in the 4th and 3rd grade for future construction prison dollars. Isn't it a real assessment that our country has given people the belief that we don't need a lot of people, and whatever happens to them, it could just happen, and then there's no real big deal? I mean, I don't know what's your take on how kids grow up and be shot and killed on the streets and things on that level, but we seem to be in this particular era.
Well, I think that sometimes the system is myopic. They don't have the long-term vision that's needed. No, we don't have people that are dispensable. We need everybody. This country needs everyone. Corporations now basically don't owe. The big corporations are the ones that control. I mean, our whole system has changed, and it's changed very, 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 very quickly. Because of the money. We need new, I tell our kids we need new Supreme Court justices. When corporations are now deemed to be people, and money can be anonymously given to political PACs to push the agenda of large corporations, we have a problem. We have a big problem. And corporations now are multinational. They don't owe allegiance to country. We're just a market. Because they can make the same money somewhere else, which they do, and invest it somewhere else, which they do. We need to educate our children here because we're going to need them in the future. And we have to see that. We have to have, our leaders have to plan long term. And we're going to have to think out, what will our children be able to do? Where should we be focusing for their educational needs? What do we need here? And that's what we're going to have some pretty good planning. You mentioned Ferguson. That's another thing. This has happened all too often.
Right.
It will happen in the future. We have to have a systemic response.
Yes.
Systemic, immediately. All right. So we won't have. So we can avoid people being killed in protests. So we can vest people with confidence in the system. The system can work. Holder's coming in. He's going to. There is a grand jury that's being convened. They will review evidence. There will be an indictment if necessary. But we have to show the people that this is the system, and we have to depend on the system. Because if not, we can't try people in the media. We can't try people on TV or in the papers, or we can't rush to judgment. That's how people got lynched in the last century. All right, so we can't do that. We have to make the system work. I'm a lawyer. Obviously, I believe in the system, but I think that we have to have a response, systemic response to these types of incidents.
Well, those are some real powerful words. Those are going to have to be your last words, unless you just have anything briefly that you
in
want
this program.
In this program. Because I just want to ask you one quick question. Is this mega education kind of your way of giving back, that you've been blessed and you've been fortunate, and this is something that you want to give back to people who've not been?
I hear the words give back a lot. I don't look at it as giving back. I live my life with purpose.
Okay.
It's not that I'm giving back. These are all my family. These are my people. Whether you're black, whether you're Latino, whoever you are. And when I go to the schools, I'm where I belong. When I'm in court, I'm where I belong. I'm OCD. I work while I sleep, and I try to hold myself to high standards. And this is what I teach kids. You talked about profanity. Take them to church.
Yes.
The Lord gives us a mouth from which we praise the Almighty.
Right.
We shouldn't be saying the same words out of that same orifice. So I try to tell kids, if you use that language, it's because you haven't developed the ability to express yourself in a different manner. And that's where education comes in.
Okay. I had enjoyed having you on this program
Thank
this
you very
morning,
much for having me.
and it was a very inspirational and educational, enlightening show that you was able to offer.
Thank you.
This is Jonathan Small. I had enjoyed hosting All About You this morning with my guest, attorney Jeffrey Dressler. And as I say every single week, there's a lot of good programs on accesstv.org network that you could always tune into. And also, as I always say to everybody out there, have a very blessed day and keep the faith. Thank you.